Welcome to the 1662 Fellowship of North America, where we promote the historic Anglican formularies as the theological center of gravity for Orthodox Anglicanism in North America. I am Isaac Rayberg, the Archdeacon for Liturgy in the Anglican Diocese of All Nations and the Rector of All Saints Anglican Church in San Antonio, Texas. So today is our third episode. This is episode 3 of the 1662 Fellowship. And today I wanted to talk about how we might apply the use of the 1662 and the other formularies in the context of a church that uses another prayer book. And these are just going to be some general principles for how you might apply this, again, in a context where you're using a different prayer book. The first thing to understand when we want to look at this is why we would want to use the prayer book, period. Why are we using a book of common prayer? And we find that Archbishop Cranmer, in his essay concerning the services of the church, which is appended as an introductory essay in the 1662 edition, he gives us a list of the reasons why he wrote the Book of Common Prayer at the time of the Reformation. So the first thing he mentions is that we wanted to have and we needed to have an easily understood calendar for comprehensive reading of Scripture, basically a Bible reading plan that would get us through most of the Bible without a lot of undue effort in trying to figure out how to follow the plan. The Book of Common Prayer also was going to give a practical, a doable, you might say, rule of life with rules that are, quote, few in number so that they are plain and easy to be understood. Number 3, he tells us that it gives us a simple and understandable liturgy, which is more edifying than something that's overly complex. He writes this in the essay: "It is more profitable because here are left out many things, whereof some are untrue, some are uncertain, some vain and superstitious." Then this was a problem coming out of the Middle Ages. Things were very complex. And unfortunately, we've made things a bit more complex as time has gone on. And then the final reason he gives is that there would be a single liturgical use throughout the realm of England. That is, there would be uniformity in our practice. So the question is, how might I apply these principles that we do find in this classical edition, the 1662? How do I apply that in a context where maybe we're using a different Book of Common Prayer? Well, the most important thing I would say is that you need to use a robust and simple lectionary that covers the vast majority of the Bible. We do want to get Holy Scripture. If your prayer book is not covering Scripture very well, you probably ought to use a different lectionary. That doesn't mean you have to abandon the prayer book, but it does mean you really should use a lectionary that's going to give you more of Scripture. This is an area where the ACNA's 2019 Book of Common Prayer is very good. It actually gives more Scripture than the original 1662. Plus, it gives some flexibility because it has the flexibility for being either a 1-year lectionary or a 2-year lectionary. If you use just the morning prayer readings 1 year, and then the evening prayer in the next year can be a 2-year lectionary. That can be very helpful for people that are getting used to reading the Scriptures a lot. On the other hand, the 1662, the original 1662 lectionary is found in the international edition here. It is a simpler lectionary to follow because it has whole chapters and it's generally in canonical order. It's a lot less difficult to figure out where you are in the plan, but it is less comprehensive. By my calculations, there's about 50 fewer chapters of the canonical Scriptures covered in the original 1662 than in the 2019. But either way, you can use that monthly psalm cycle. That's a very important way to adapt the principles of the 1662 for contexts that are using something else. And really, all the prayer books do permit that monthly psalm cycle where we go through the Psalms once a month. Nothing has been more beneficial for my life as an adult than adapting that monthly psalm cycle. Um, a second thing you can use to apply the principles of the 1662 is to keep the services, if you're in a position to plan them, relatively simple. Um, Organize things in such a way that people are going to have to flip back and forth less. So that means you might use a little bit fewer options than some of the newer prayer books allow. Simple is more important than scratching our itch towards boredom, to alleviate boredom. So use options that require less flipping around in the book, and do use the book as much as possible. Um, if you can, move away from having overheads and printouts of the prayer book of the service, um, because this will teach your people that our liturgical heritage, this rule of life, this way that really immerses us in the rhythms of prayer and the scripture, is not just about communion on Sundays. You can encourage the people of your congregations to use the prayer book at home as their main devotional tool, outside of the Bible, of course. And by encouraging people to get to know their prayer books, you're going to help them in that formation, in their community rule of life, their individual rule of life, and just to help them grow as Christians. Most of all, you do need to obey the injunctions of your bishop when it comes to liturgy. We don't have the luxury of Anglicans as doing our own thing just because we like something more than another. If there's a really good scriptural reason to appeal to the bishop regarding some of his decisions, by all means, take advantage of that. But don't be a rebel. That's the main thing. It is not within the prayer book ethos to be a rebel. If you are a member of the clergy or you're a lay leader, have a copy of the 1662 for reference. Again, I recommend the International Edition. And in future episodes, the next two episodes, I'm going to take a look at how we might do this in a couple of details. So the next episode, we're going to look at two brief case studies on applying that 1662 as a reference to answer some questions we might have in other contexts. And then in the following episode, in episode number 5, I'm going to tell you how we've applied the 1662 principles in my own parish, which, let the secret out, is not a 1662 parish. We are a 1928 parish. So I do hope that you'll join us for those for those future episodes. Thank you for joining us for this one. Do hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this abroad if it's been edifying. Thank you so much.